So let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to do a slightly different presentation than we did last time on this particular time slot, just because we made a couple of changes and I want to reflect those properly. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Stern, and I am in Arizona. And I want to welcome you to iHUB.global. If you're looking at this for the first time or even the first few times, I want to welcome you to an exceedingly bright future that I believe is going to be available to all of us participating in this extraordinary program that we call iHUB Global. I'm one of the co-founders of the company, vice president of development. So I've been kind of around as this project was put together, and I definitely want to thank you for being here and make you comfortable knowing you're in the right place at the right time. So if you are here as a result of a webinar marketing funnel that we have at iHUB, and you were driven to this, then you are probably aware already of things in the cryptocurrency space. It's kind of positioned for that. You're going to learn how iHUB Global is involved not only in the cryptocurrency space, but very specifically with the particular cryptocurrency that is called Helium, with the three-letter code for Helium, HNT. So this all started about 10 months ago, in August of 2020, when I was talking with a colleague of mine, and he basically kind of dropped the question if I'd be interested in owning a piece of the world's largest wireless network. Now, I didn't really know what he was referring to, but I was intrigued by the concept of a large world network being set up, what that was all about. I think he may have used some terminology that implied it was something parallel to the internet or something like that. But as I started to research it, I discovered that it had to do with something called the Internet of Things, or IoT. Now, I had heard that term, but that was about it. I knew that it had something to do with various different kinds of devices that output data that can be used to make the various different processes or applications more user-friendly, more cost-efficient, more cost-effective, more convenient, a lot of different things along those lines. But frankly, other than that, I was pretty clueless about what they were talking about with the Internet of Things. And as I reached out to one of my colleagues that I've known for several decades now, at least a couple, 3 decades, Chuck Hansen, and I asked him a similar question. What do you know about the Internet of Things? He's like, not a clue. What do you mean? What's the Internet of Things? And we discovered as we started asking people, very few people, if any, had any idea of what this thing called IoT or the Internet of Things was all about, except for one exception. And that was a friend of Chuck's who goes, oh yeah, I know all about the Internet of Things. And he went on to explain that he owned a vending machine company, and every one of his vending machines was connected to the internet, and it placed its own order for the restocking of the inventory that was used in the vending machine, so that when the person who typically would go and restock the machine, all they had to do was look at their iPad and they knew precisely what to take to the vending machine. And when I heard that, I thought, well, that is a really practical application of what this IoT thing would really mean. I could totally get that. I understand why it would save tons of time and money for a company, you know, where typically somebody would have to go up there and inventory it, go back to a truck or something, and then get the right stuff and carry it back up there and have to do that over and over again for each vending machine. So this IoT concept is something really amazing in terms of its implementation and the benefits it provides. But I had no idea that it was already close to an $800 billion global market with some 8.4 billion devices already connected to the internet, actually more devices than people. That was very much a revelation to me. And that it's expected over the next 4 years to exceed $2.4 trillion with some 70 to 80 billion devices connected. So that was a massive market. And I was really shocked because typically when there's something that big out there, most people have an inkling. I was clueless. I had no idea that was anything of that size that was happening. But it turns out there are thousands, tens of thousands of different types of IoT devices and applications to use those devices to make things better for the communities that are able to have these things in their area. Another really interesting example in a town in Southern California, city called Huntington Beach. There was a company that decided that they wanted to put an application together to help people find parking spaces in the area. I guess it's a problem in Huntington Beach. And so they went around to a bunch of the parking structures and parking lots, got them on board with the idea. They put a device into all the parking spots that were involved in this, about 2,000 parking spots that would allow the system to know whether that spot was taken or not. And then it would connect to an application where people could go and find where there's a parking spot and reserve it in advance and even pay for it in advance. But the issue was, how are they going to get the data from that device in the parking spot to the internet? How's that going to happen? All these devices that output wonderful data can't do anything on their own. That data somehow needs to get to the internet where the applications that use that data are able to access it to make things happen in order to take advantage of this whole concept of the IoT data. And so the company that's building this world's largest wireless network together, it's based out of San Francisco. It's called Helium Systems, Inc. And Helium recognized that there was a profound need to come up with a simple solution for people to be able to hook their IoT devices up to a way to get that data to the internet. They recognized doing an evaluation even as far back as 2013, where they analyzed what was going on in the world of the Internet of Things. And they formed a company by the name of Helium as a result of that analysis. And they saw that there was no simple way of doing it. In fact, they saw that most companies had to completely create their own internal infrastructure, with the resources, the capital, the creativity to apply that for their own unique situation. Other people were relying on going to cellular data companies, getting cellular plans for each device, kind of cumbersome to connect to their devices and very expensive to do. And so Helium recognized that there was a very, very strong opportunity for them to provide a solution that did not exist. And that solution was to build a worldwide network designed specifically so the IoT devices could connect to the internet through this network that they were building. Now, they made a couple of very interesting decisions in this process. First off, they saw that within the IoT world, the manufacturing and usage world, there was a standard that was evolving of something called LoRa, LoRa radio. Now, LoRa just stands for long range. It's kind of like Wi-Fi, but it reaches out about 200 times farther than Wi-Fi. And so they decided that they were going to build a peer-to-peer network of devices that were these LoRa gateways. Typically, when a company was building their own infrastructure, if they were using LoRa, they would have a transmitter on their IoT device that would encrypt the data and then transmit it over this LoRa frequency, which is just above FM radio in a biologically safe range. And then there would be something called a LoRa gateway that would typically be within about a mile or so of that IoT device. And that encrypted data would then be received on that gateway. And then the LoRa gateway was connected to the internet so that that encrypted data can then be sent to the internet, where whoever needed that data would be able to pull it down and use it in their application. And so Helium decided that, number one, that this LoRa radio was the way to go. Number two, rather than do it as a typical big tech company where everything was centralized under their umbrella and monetizing everything under the umbrella for themselves, they decided to take a completely different perspective and do this as a decentralized project, allowing us as individuals to participate all over the world to get these devices to add additional coverage physically to this network for the IoT devices in our area to be able to use the gateway that they call a helium hotspot and use that to get the data to the internet. Now, I apologize, excuse me a second. So what they did to incentivize us to do this, and therein lies the genius of this whole program, is they created their own cryptocurrency token and their own blockchain for that cryptocurrency. They called it Helium, the same name as the company. It's got the call letters HNT, and they created a concept totally unique to the cryptocurrency space, that these devices would use something that they created called proof of coverage that would generate, or in the vernacular of the cryptocurrency world, would mine helium tokens. Now, in the cryptocurrency space, there's different kinds of cryptocurrency mining. The ones that most people are familiar with are things like Bitcoin and Ethereum that have been using something called proof of work that requires very sophisticated computer systems, ever increasing in their sophistication and power, in order to handle the ever increasing difficulty of doing the proof of work types of calculations that are needed in Bitcoin and Ethereum. And that process would generate Bitcoin and Ethereum tokens, where in the case of the helium hotspot, this helium hotspot that they have uses very little electricity, like a big computer that would gobble up vast amounts of energy and require climate control so it doesn't overheat. This thing is only a 5-watt device, like a 5-watt LED device. It uses less than $1 a month worth of electricity. And yet, as a result of proof of coverage, which I'll cover a little bit here in this presentation, it generates helium tokens for the person that has put one of these devices in their location. So I want to go ahead and share.
Do you know who owns your wireless network?
Sorry, I want to do that, but not quite yet, because I want to make sure that I shared my computer sound, which, let me just check that. And I didn't. It's better than it going through the microphone. It'll come from the computer. And let's take a listen to a presentation that we just posted last week in iHUB Global. Unfortunately, I don't have the actual video. I took it off of the Zoom, which doesn't have the greatest audio. And the last few moments of it, the audio was gone completely. But excuse me, I think you'll appreciate it. So let's go ahead and listen to this.
Do you know who owns your wireless network? Most likely, some ginormous big brand tech company with stacks and stacks of moolah. Well, what if you were able to own part of a similar network, which is growing constantly every day? It's called the Internet of Things, or IoT network. Heard of it? It powers billions of all those helpful things like our beautiful smart devices, life-saving medical sensors, security monitors, remote tracking devices, and the list goes on. So now you know you could help power all that and get paid for it in helium, which is a form of cryptocurrency. You know the digital currency that's super secure because it's kept in an online fortress of solitude called blockchain technology? But you might have known that. And all that happens from this one little device called a helium hotspot you can get from iHUB Global. All you do is plug it in and start earning or mining helium automatically, which goes directly into your account. Simple as that. You basically earn money by doing practically nothing, so you can afford to spend more time with who's important to you. Earnings vary based on where you live, and iHUB will show you simple ways to track how much you earn every day. You can also bring in your family and friends to earn more as an affiliate. And they'll earn too while we build the biggest network in the world together. And eventually, your earnings go even higher and higher with our shared hosting plan. Okay, then why iHUB Global, you ask? Because it's free to start. Our mission is growing the network by more of us owning the network. We'll do it together with simple training on the basics. We'll also show you simple earning strategies to grow. By using our proprietary app called Helium Track, you can track your hotspots and run virtual simulations to place free hotspots in the best locations to further expand your network of affiliates and earnings. Who knew owning this network could be so easy? So if you're ready, let's grow together with
All right, so this is where the audio went out, but it's pretty much the end of the presentation. So what is the business community thinking about this concept of building this wireless network on behalf of the Internet of Things? Well, their first device that they brought out in the late summer of 2019, they started shipping them in December 2019. And after that, Fast Company did an article where they looked at this helium hotspot and considered it one of the 10 most innovative consumer electronic companies of that year. Now, even back in 2019, when they first started taking orders, Time considered it one of the best inventions of the year, and they likened it to a miniature cell tower. Not that this has anything to do with cell phones or cell towers, but they recognized that back in the day, before cell phones could be used massively by the public, it required an enormous build of infrastructure of cell towers to make that happen. And it provided an opportunity for a large number of people to invest in building that infrastructure and generating residual income from that investment, even to today. And so Time recognized that this was a new infrastructure, a worldwide infrastructure that was being built for the Internet of Things, excuse me, that was going to provide an opportunity for people to participate and be able to develop long-term residual income in the form of helium tokens. Decrypt magazine in the cryptocurrency world, they wrote their first article on helium when they turned on the switch from their innovative wireless network for the Internet of Things. Fortune magazine talks about how major companies like Nestle and Lime Scooter are already using the helium network as their way of getting their IoT data to the internet through the helium network to do that. So what's in it for us? I mean, yeah, it's true that getting one of these hotspots is going to increase the network size, the graphic coverage of the area where we live. It's going to be really good for the community. But what's in it for us? Why are we going to do this? Well, you can get one of these devices literally for no cost through a program that we're putting together at iHUB that we call our hosted deployment schedule, based on the different locations for people who are interested in having one of these units. Now, the key in this process of how much you can earn with one of these units is dependent on how many of these helium hotspots, in our case, iHUB miners, how many of them are actually in your vicinity, within a half a mile to a mile or where you are. If you've got at least 3 of them in the area, then these units can generate as much as 50 helium tokens a month or more, increasingly with the number of other units in your area, because it's the interaction between the units that generate this proof of coverage. What does proof of coverage mean? It just means that this process validates that one of these units physically exists and is adding physical geographical territory for the IoT devices within a mile or so range of that particular unit. So what's the value of this token? Well, it was first available to exchange for the first time about this time last summer with the major cryptocurrency exchange called Binance. And when that happened, this company, Pick a Crypto, did a full-scale evaluation of the helium business model, and they were so impressed with it, they thought the value of the token could exceed $5 before the end of 2020. But they didn't quite hit the mark on that. It did go over $4 in late September. But more importantly in their evaluation is they thought between now and 2025, that the value of the token could get into that $40 to $80 range. Now, where is it right now? It's about $13. It did hit an all-time high at the end of May of about $20, but it is definitely moving in the direction to doing this. And there's people that have had even more aggressive projections of where they thought that token's going to be able to go over the next 5 to 10 years. So I want to kind of transition a little bit to talk about iHUB, why we put this together, what the benefit of participating in our program is. Now, Helium did their evaluation in 2013 of the Internet of Things arena and saw the need to put together this network, the value of putting in the opportunity of putting together this network to create what they call the Helium community. Now, you'll see that there are a large number of units that are already deployed, but compared to what needs to be deployed, it's just a bit of the tip of the iceberg. But when we evaluated the Helium business model, we felt that there was an additional need that would be really conducive of accelerating the word to help build this network. And we decided to put together an affiliate program for the purposes of educating people about the ability of getting one of these Helium hotspots and teaching them how to maximize their ability to generate Helium tokens. And to do that, we reached out to a company called CalChip Connect, which was the largest and still is the largest authorized supplier of Helium hotspots to the market. We explained that what we wanted to do in our affiliate program was to find a way to leverage the production of the Helium tokens by one of these devices into a commission model that would operate within the iHUB affiliate structure. They introduced us to one of their partners that between us, we were able to accomplish what we wanted. And we have a particular version of these iHUB, of these Helium hotspots. What you're seeing here is one particular brand called an RAK unit, which was the first unit that CalChip was really taking to the market for the Helium community. There's several different brands now that we're going to be participating with CalChip. But these units are specifically programmed to be able to do our very unique and very powerful affiliate structure to make all this possible. And I'm going to lightly touch on this in this presentation. But we really look at this as kind of a passive income generator, something that is going to generate Helium tokens independent of what's going on in the pandemic or the world economy. This is not a multi-level marketing company. We're an affiliate company with a very, very powerful affiliate commission engine in it. There's no recruiting that's required. There's no, hoops that you got to go through. It's very, very scaled down to make this possible for anybody to participate this in a wonderful way with zero cost involved. There's no cost to becoming a member of our iHUB affiliate program, and there is no cost for those who qualify to participate in our hosting program. But those of you that recognize the power of building this worldwide network will want to avail yourself of the possibilities of sharing this iHUB affiliate program. And so once an individual has a unit, they hook it up to their own electricity. As I said, it uses less than $1 worth of electricity a month. You hook it up to your internet connection, it uses very little of your bandwidth. And once it syncs to the Helium blockchain, it generates Helium tokens 24/7, 365 days a year. So what is this affiliate program, this commission structure? Well, in iHUB, we're very, very sensitive to the power of leverage. And for decades, I'd been referring to this J. Paul Getty quote where he said he'd rather have 1% of the efforts of 100 people than 100% of his own efforts. And so we've kind of shifted the focus of that statement relative to our iHUB affiliate host program. And basically, instead of having 100% of what you could potentially get off of your own Helium hotspot, but having no leverage, no opportunity to refer it, we are taking less than 100%, but being able to get 5, 10, 15 as much as 25% of hundreds or even thousands or even more than thousands of hotspots as a result of sharing this information and building this iHUB affiliate program. So I want to kind of just give you just a very, very brief introduction to how this works. So there's no requirement to enroll any other affiliates. You can put a cluster of units together on your own and just generate the helium tokens and be quite happy. And that's all that is necessary to do if that's what you want to do. But if you do see the vision of sharing this to build a large amount of units around the world in this, then you can share this information with other affiliates. And I'm just going to touch on this very lightly. And the way it works is, as you start to share this, you're building 4 separate teams of people. The first 5 people that you share this with essentially comprise your first team. The next 10 people, your second team. The next 10 after that, your third team. Anything after that is your fourth team. And the way it works is that on those first 5 people, if they get a unit and that unit generates, we're going to just use an example that each unit generates 100 helium tokens a month. If that's the case, then that would mean that you're getting 10% of that 100. You would be getting 10 tokens a month from each one of those units. In the second team, you're getting that same 10%, but in an additional 5% on top of that. In the third team, you're getting that same 10%, but 2 5% on top of that. And on the third team, you're getting that same 10%, but 3 5% for a total of 25% that you would earn on those units. Now, let me just put this in perspective. So if you've got 5 members in your first team that have a unit, each generate 100 helium tokens, that would be 500 at 10%. That's 50 tokens per month that you're earning off of those 5 individuals. On that second team of 10 people, you got 10 times 100. That would be 1,000 at 15%. So that's 150. 10 on your third team, that's 200 at 20%. And on your fourth team, there's an unlimited number of people that can be there. But just to keep this example consistent, let's say it's 10 people on your fourth team, and that would be 250. That's a total of 35 people that you shared this concept with that ended up getting a free unit from iHUB. And you would be receiving these numbers for making that happen. Now, if you add all those together, those 35 people, that's 650 helium tokens a month that you're earning. If you look at that on an annual basis, that would be 7,800 helium tokens a month. If helium just stayed at the same $13, over the next year, which is highly unlikely, it's much more likely that it's going to increase. But 1,300 times $7,800, that means that you're earning over $101,000 for just introducing these 35 people that got one of these hosted units from iHUB. Now, just think about what that means here. It didn't cost anybody a dime to become an iHUB affiliate. It didn't cost any of those people to get a free iHUB unit. However, they did have to have an address location that had a high score or a reasonable score that we have in our system. We've got a very, very powerful software package. You saw it on that little video. It's called Helium Track. We're going to be rolling this out on the 17th of July. It is by far, very far, the most sophisticated helium hotspot evaluation software, to the point where we can put an address in and get a very, very strong understanding of what is very likely that unit would be earning to give it a scoring system. And then iHUB would then send the free units out to, let's say it's got an A, B, C, D, E, F score, we would send it to the A and B units. And then the ones that were C, D, E, and F, we would be able to make recommendations of what can be done to improve that score. Maybe it's a unit that's kind of in an area where there's not a lot of other hotspots. Remember, having a cluster of 3 or more really generates it. So somebody could submit a grouping of 3 different addresses or more and get a much higher score than they would of each one of those being sent in separately, et cetera, et cetera. We'll talk lots more about that. But it doesn't just stop here in the program. Those 5% that I mentioned continue to go as well on other individuals on those second, third, and fourth team, a significant portion of those teams as they start sharing this as well. So I want to kind of stop sharing at this point, but I want to point this out. Every helium hotspot, whether it's one of the various manufactured brands that are out there, whether it's an iHUB version of it, they're all on the Helium blockchain. And as a result of that, they're all publicly accessible, completely transparent, no smoke and mirrors. So I want to stop sharing for a second and share another screen. And we're going to be looking at an application that is querying the Helium blockchain and plotting all the deployed hotspots that are out there, irregardless of what kind of helium hotspot they are, on a worldwide map, so you can see what's going on. Now, there are currently just over 80,000 hotspots that have been deployed. Now, just 10 months ago, it was less than 7,000 hotspots. And those 7,000 hotspots were all in the US and Canada, with just a handful of them outside of the US as test units. They started shipping units over to the UK, Ireland, and the EU in the fall of 2020. Quite a number of them over there. But as far as that goes, in the rest of the world, it's just a handful of units, except for over in China, where a significant number of units has been appearing over the last month or two. And they're getting ready to now start shipping units into Australia. A lot of people have already ordered in Australia, and they're just starting shipments into that. The rest of the world, the units that are out there are mainly from people that got a unit somewhere else and carried it to a location without it being formally introduced into those countries. So with this map, though, you can zoom in to any one location and take a look at specifically what's going on in that location. And I want to take a look at a particular area. This is in Vero Beach, Florida, this area here. Now, I'm pointing this out because the CEO of iHUB, Rick Cotton, lives in Vero Beach, Florida. And 4 months ago, when we were just starting to gain access to units to start to deploying, there was not a single helium hotspot in the Vero Beach area. And so he started a model of building one of the first clusters within our iHUB space, creating marketing and advertising strategies to find people to host units. He bought 10 units, but again, unlike a Bitcoin or an Ethereum miner where you can have a room or a warehouse full of units, this is designed to provide coverage. And so there needs to be a separation of about 1,000 feet between units, because after all, the purpose of this is to literally provide coverage for the IoT devices within this area to be able to use one of these hotspots, these helium hotspots, as the means of getting their IoT data to the internet. And so I want to show you something, how this kind of started off. When Rick started, this is his first unit called the Trendy Tan Duck. Now, each one of these units has kind of a fun name to it. It's simply 2 adjectives in the name of an animal. And so when we look at that individually, it's represented by this white dot here. The gold dots with the lines going to them are units that the white dot unit is witnessing or being witnessed by other units in terms of what it's doing on the blockchain. The witnessing is the proof of coverage, proving that these units physically are there to provide coverage for the IoT devices in the area. We take a look at what this unit generated over the last 30 days, and we'll see that it generated about 156 tokens. So if you were the one that referred this individual, okay, again, let's assume that Everybody was involved in iHUB. You reached out, you knew this person in Vero Beach, they got a unit hosted to them, and they're getting 156 tokens for that situation. They would get a minimum of 10%. As we've shown in that previous chart and explanation of the affiliate program, it could be anywhere from 10 to 25% of this 156 tokens. But let's just look at it at 10%, 15.6 tokens at $13. That's about $203 that you're getting at a referral fee for this individual hosting this unit. And nobody paid anything to do that. And it's not just a one-time fee, it's an ongoing fee that you would get in the process of doing it. Now, the amount of helium tokens that the host would get in this situation, we're finalizing some things on that right now. Let's say, as an example, that it would be 20%. So 156 at 20% would mean 31.2 tokens. That would be $405 that the person hosting this unit would get for putting this unit into their home or business, using $1 worth of electricity a month and hooking it up to their internet using very little of their internet bandwidth. And that's an ongoing thing for the life of the unit, the referrals and the hosting, everything. It doesn't just happen in a short period of time, it's ongoing. So that's one example. We'll take a look at another example. This is over in Europe, in the UK, in the London area. This is a unit that's called the Strong Sand Chicken. I'm pointing this one out because, as I mentioned in Laura, it usually has a range of about 1 mile to as much as 10 miles, depending upon the density of buildings, depending upon the topography of the area. But in this unit, you can see it's reaching out considerably more than that 1 to 10 mile range. Covering different areas. And that tells me something important about this Strong Sand Chicken device. It tells me one of two things. Either that topographically, that's a location on a high point, maybe on top of a hill or on some foothills overlooking the rest of the area, or it's on a higher floor of a high-rise building, but it has some elevated vantage point that's able, through in radio line of sight, it reaches out much farther than if you're doing the same kind of transmission at ground level, and it's able to reach out there a longer distance. What is this unit generated? It's generated about 180 helium tokens, which really speaks on the connectivity that Rick was able to do with the clusters he started building in Vero Beach. Because they were all using antennas to ensure that they were able to communicate and receive significantly more than the general average of what people would earn in helium. So this unit was able to do it by virtue of it being at a high elevation. 181 approximately helium tokens. If you referred that individual, if you were just starting off in those first 5 individuals and or just on your own, you'd be getting 10%. That would be 18.1 at $13, $235. But let's just say that this was the 26th person that you shared this information with. That would mean that person was part of your gold team. And in this case, you would get 25% of those 181 tokens at 25% times $13. That's $588 that you would be rewarded, not just one time, but ongoingly, month in, month out, 25% of whatever the unit mined for doing that. And nobody had to pay anything in order to have this process take place. We'll take a look at one more also in the London area. This one's reaching out even further. So I'm almost positive this is something that's in a high floor of a high rise. This unit is kind of way above the average. This unit has generated over the last 30 days, over 500 helium tokens. Imagine if that was somebody as part of your, on your 26 plus individual that you referred to iHUB Global, they got a unit. And imagine if you got 25% of 520 tokens at $13, that's almost $1,700 a month that you get for referring that unit. Do you see how that quotation about rather having 5, 10, 15% or more of an unlimited number of other hotspots rather than getting 100% of your own, how profound and possible it is within the Helium program? So what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and stop sharing and just kind of finish this off, going back to the original presentation. And if you're looking at this for the first time, and even maybe a few times, it's very unlikely that you had a lot of knowledge about the Internet of Things. It may be that you don't know much about cryptocurrency or the concept of cryptocurrency mining. Probably you knew nothing about helium or helium hotspots or LoRa radio or proof of coverage blockchain, any of those kinds of things. But guess what? It isn't really necessary to totally grasp all this. Having one of these units that you host is as simple as hooking it up to your electricity and plugging it into your internet, other than maybe putting it in a better window location compared to one or another, or maybe using a more powerful antenna to boost the distance that the radio transmission is able to accomplish. It becomes pretty much set it and forget it. And just getting those helium tokens month in, month out, coming to you to take advantage of that. So kind of like learning how to drive a car, you're able to get to your destination, but you don't have to understand how the internal combustion engine works, or you don't have to understand how the mechanical components of your car operate. You just need to know how to drive it. So I want everybody to appreciate that everything in our life reflects decisions that we've made in the past, the choices that we've made, the actions we've taken on those choices. And if you want to experience a different outcome in the future that we have, then it's time to make some new choices and they take action on that. Get back together with whoever invited you to this presentation. Get your questions answered. Remember, there's zero cost to becoming an affiliate with iHUB. Get yourself a unit reserved. It's free to reserve the unit. And then I want to thank you for your time and your focus. And we'll go ahead and stop sharing this. And we got a little bit of time for some questions if anybody does have a question. But here's what I would like you to do if you do. On the screen, and I don't know what it looks like on a cell phone, but on a PC or a laptop or a Mac, if you put your cursor on the screen, there's some controls at the bottom. One says reactions. If you click that, you have a choice of raising your hand. Okay, so if you've got a question, go ahead and raise your hand and then unmute yourself and I'll try and help you with the question. So Sergio, first hand up. If you can unmute yourself, be happy to give it a try.
Thank you. Okay, so the compensation plan, as you showed it, is not going to change after the free device program begins. Is that correct?
That is correct. Well, you know, we are going out looking at a couple of possibilities of making some enhancements to that. But no, the basic plan, for those of you that may be new on this, up until this point, our program had been where people would purchase for $500 their own iHUB miner. Okay, we're shifting for many different reasons onto that into a hosted program, but the core program for those that have those purchase units doesn't change at all. It's precisely the same way. The hosted units, you know, as far as the affiliate side of it, except for potentially a few additional enhancements on top of what's already there, will not change. The only difference is people aren't buying the units and they're getting a portion of what's earned as opposed to what our previous program had for the people that were purchasing the units themselves. Does that help, Sergio?
Yes, and did I hear you correctly when you said that the person hosting the actual device in their home or business will now be receiving 20% instead of 10%?
Yeah, but we're still finalizing some of that. You know, we're formally going to be rolling this out probably closer to the end of July. The software that makes all this happen will be rolled out the middle of July. But our commitment is to roll out the program formally sometime in the next month or so. But we just wanted to give everybody a heads up that we were transitioning the model. So there's a few things that we're discussing at the advisory and field leadership level. As far as the numbers go, we may have it nailed down in time to announce it on our training call tomorrow night. So I would recommend plugging into our 9 p.m. East Coast time training call, typical Thursday night call. If we've got those announcements nailed, those things nailed down, we'll make an announcement about that. So it's possible it will, or if it won't be this Thursday, it would be next Thursday. We're still waiting to get some feedback from our legal department and things of that nature. So stay tuned, Sergio. Ira, you got your hand up. If you could unmute yourself.
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me, Michael?
I can.
Okay, great. We have a mutual friend, Forster Malmid, so I just wanted you to know.
And love Foster and his wonderful wife, Terry.
Yeah, they're great. I'm trying to understand the new system now. Since the miners will be free, is there anything that would limit us getting a miner for somebody who's starting, let's say, in an area where there aren't a lot of machines? If they get a low score, for instance, that it's not a good area, would that actually stop them from getting one?
No, actually, they've got great opportunity if they're in an area, because that's really where the largest amount of helium is going to be generated, as opposed to going into very dense areas, the big cities, where there's already a lot of units. But the way it's going to work is they will need to find a few other individuals within close proximity to where they are, so they can submit a cluster of at least 3 units at one time. And then the scoring will be based on the combined scoring of the 3 units as a cluster, which would score very high, comparatively speaking, than the single one by itself. And then we would provide units to all 3 or all 6 or all 10 or whatever that cluster was designed on, all simultaneously.
Well, just as an example, I have a godson of mine that lives in Alaska. There's nothing going on there. So if he pre-ordered a machine today, okay, and then he has a lot of people that he can sign up. He's the diesel mechanic in the area there, okay? Could he get a machine to start with and then bring people in, or would he have?
No, it's way better. If you got a unit and you're the first unit in an area, realistically, you're probably going to earn about 5 helium tokens in a 30-day period. It's not a lot. It's not bad, but within our model, in terms of the investors that are providing the units for this, it's not enough for deployment. But if that individual were to find 2 other people within his vicinity and submit those addresses together, then that cluster would then score very high, and then we would be able to provide units. There's no real reason to have 1 unit in your area that isn't doing very well in order to try and get other people's attention. With the tools that we have, you can using the software, you could look at any unit. It's all completely transparent and precisely see what would be done. And in fact, he would be able to use the software to go to those 2 other people and say, look, if we did this and submitted these 3 units together, this is what they would be earning, to do that. So it's going to be very, very valuable and very easy to hand somebody a report that says, here's the information, here's what we could anticipate, let's go ahead and do it, and without having to spend anything, you're getting the unit for free.
And so the way he would do it then would be to bring them in as, let's say, 2 or 3 affiliates, if there were 2 or 3 extra friends.
Correct.
And your software would recognize that he was the first, and that these 3 were coming in under him. That would form a cluster.
Well, that would be done. Yeah, it would all work through the software to do. He would be the person that reached out. They would use his affiliate link to register, and then they would submit the addresses together as a group.
And at some point, the company decides where those people are placed and how many there are that would be okay to then send them.
Yeah, the company will be selecting the locations based on the scoring. So I can just tell you that clustering units together is going to achieve a higher score than submitting a separate individual unit in a city that may have a very high density of units, where maybe there's already too many units in a particular area. But you can still do that. Okay. So we really recognize how powerful it is to break new ground. I mean, after all, probably 98% of the whole planet is pretty much new ground. The 2% is focused in a handful of big cities where, you know, the 80,000 units predominantly are, and most countries around the world aren't even open yet to have any units in the area. So there's, you know, our focus is going to be really helping people develop this network around the world. There's 80,000 units, but it's going to take tens of millions of units to adequately cover all the cities around the world. So we've got a huge opportunity to make that happen.
Yeah, where I live, I don't want to take up too much time, but I live in Long Beach, Long Island in New York. I have 6 people who have units here, but they're further away from me than, you know, the 1,000 meters. And
yeah, so that's when getting an antenna would probably really suit you. I mean,
yeah.
I could tell you personally, for me, where I live in Arizona, when I got my unit, I got the stock unit, put it in my window. I was generating maybe 1/10 of a helium a day. So about 3 helium tokens over the course of a month. I went and got an antenna. I didn't have what I needed to hook it up on the roof yet, but I just took the higher, gain antenna and just put it in the window where I had the unit. And I went from like 1/10 of a helium token to about 2 helium tokens a day, 2 to 3. And then once I took that same antenna, I live in a one-story home, single floor home. When I put the antenna on the roof, it went from 2 or 3 a day to 10 to 12 a day. So the antenna definitely makes a big difference.
And these units, Chuck was talking the other night, saying that when you first get the unit, even if, let's say, you're going to place it a couple of miles away in somebody else's home, if you plug it into the Ethernet, you can set the machine up and then move it, and it'll already be set up. Is that correct?
Yeah, basically what we were referring to, and this is a little bit more detail than on a first presentation kind of thing. I apologize for that, but it's useful information. When you get these devices, there's 2 ways you can hook them up to your internet connection. You can either use an Ethernet cable and hook it directly up to, say, a router, or you can use your Wi-Fi and hook it up. When you first hook these things up, they need to sync to the Helium blockchain. And that's a fair amount of data because the blockchain's getting to be pretty big right now. And so you can use the Ethernet cable and do that. It'll take a day or 2 to sync, and then you'll see it when you look on the map. It'll say that it is synced. Excuse me. It'll go from offline to being fully synced, and then you can then move it to a location by a window where you want, and maybe at that point hook it up to your Wi-Fi, and you'll probably get it synced a little faster than if you had it on your Wi-Fi. That's what he was referring to, Ira.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. James, you got your hand up.
Yes. Would I still be able to buy my own router, or
Your
miner?
own miner. Right now, the only way you can buy one is from an existing affiliate that purchased multiple units that they may have in their inventory, if they decide they want to sell them. Many of them are just rotating them, putting them in locations to get things started, and then they'll replace them with the hosted units. But there are people that have ordered 6, 10 or more units that may have one available for purchase. But that's it. As far as getting it from iHUB, we're no longer taking orders for the units themselves.
Okay. Some of the other companies that sell them, like Bobcat. I mean, if I was to buy one of those, would there be a way I could get hooked up and maybe buy some extras to spread around? Or
Well, I mean, let's just say, for example, that you had a Bobcat unit or even a rack unit that, there's no requirement to participate in iHUB based on having any kind of unit. We don't force people to do anything. We really want to create something that is as frictionless as possible so that people can get their lives back in order. So many people were hurt over the last year and a half with the pandemic financially. People around the world are looking for opportunities. So we wanted to make this thing available for anybody at any level that they wanted to participate. So the answer to your question is, if you wanted to, you can get one. And if you wanted to participate in iHUB, it's not going to make a difference. You're free to do that.
I mean, I could assemble my own team, I mean, through iHUB and have my own people. so to
Well,
speak.
you would want, in order for you to earn through the iHUB affiliate program, those people would need to be getting units from iHUB. That's what you're getting rewarded to do, is essentially help build the network, find those locations.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're very welcome. Pam, you got your hand up.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, good. Yeah, so I was calling because I'm new. This is my first presentation, and
Welcome.
I live in South Jersey near the Long Beach Island area, and I'm moving to North Pennsylvania, well, middle Pennsylvania, Lehigh Valley area, and so I didn't know whether I should wait to sign up or should I sign up now for that. You know, when they use.
Well, you certainly don't want to wait to register an iHUB. You can do that. We've got people all over the world that don't even have the option of having a unit yet. And they're
Mhm.
able to start sharing this with people that are in locations where they are stable in that location. And then you can start earning helium as a result of that. As far as you're moving, how long before are you planning on moving?
I think the house will be ready the end of August or maybe or beginning of September, mid-September at the latest.
That's fairly soon.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, you could submit it, because it's probably going to be mid-August before we start shipping hosted units anyway. So in your situation, you might want to submit the address. If you know where you're moving to, then you can submit that address instead of your current address.
All right, I'll do that then.
Okay,
Thanks.
you're welcome. Any other questions? We got just a couple of minutes before we need to conclude. So if anybody has any last minute questions, let's see, Brenny, how do we submit as a cluster? Well, that will be something that will be available to do, Brenny, once the Helium Track software gets released. It's targeted to release that on July 17th. And at that point, then the option of putting a group submission together will be possible. We'll learn more about it. We're all kind of new to it, getting trained up on it. It's being fine-tuned. So just stay tuned, between now and the 17th, and it'll be really clear. Okay. All right. Well, then, unless anybody else has a question, thank you for your attention, for your questions. This truly is an amazing opportunity. We're very, very grateful for all of you and your participation. Let's see, Robert's asking, can I change the location of my hotspot if I move? So if you're hosting a unit and you need to move, then you'll need to submit the location of where you're moving. But this is a very good question, one that I also want to understand the logistics of. But our take on this would be somebody that's hosting a unit, that they've been a good steward of the unit, keeping it online and that sort of thing. If they need to move to another location, they'll probably be given some consideration for doing that. But we do need to formalize a system for that. So stay tuned on that question. Can we do this in Canada, Europe, or international with the free unit program? Absolutely, Pat. As far as the free program, we're only shipping units in Canada, the US, in the UK, Europe, and Australia for now. But as soon as supply chain availability loosens up a little bit, where we can get enough inventory, where we're able to start going to other countries, then we'll be having this program worldwide. Okay. The question regarding the percentage for the host, that's still something in finalization right now. Rick mentioned a number on the last call last Thursday night, but since then, there's been some really, really good suggestions from people in the field that are being in consideration. We had an advisory board call about it earlier today. We've got another call coming up with another group of individuals. So we're working on getting some consensus of what we feel is best for everybody overall in that, and that will be announced. All right. Well, thanks everybody. And I appreciate your attention, your questions. And then we'll go ahead and conclude for now. And